Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make this fan card. I've seen a lot of them lately, but they all seem to have been 5x7. I don't know if that's a size that makes it easier to fan, but I set two with some computer paper, because you don't want to use all your good stuff, do you? And worked out how to make this in a standard American size that fits the 4¼ by 5½, just goes into a regular envelope. So without further delay, let me show you the dimensions that I used to make the 5x7 down to the 4¼ by 5½. So it starts with the standard piece of cardstock, 8½ by 5½ scored at 4¼ So we can fold that in half, and there you go, ta-da, we have the base of the card. There is a piece of basic white which is going to go in the inside, and that is 4 by 5¼ That is a standard, next layer size down. So we'll quickly pop that inside. And then the piece of designer series paper that's going on the outside is the same size. It's the 4 by 5¼ But what we're going to do is we are going to chop this a little bit, and we're going to make the skinny part of the fan is actually going to come off the body of the card. So what I'm going to do is cut the card first. So I'll bring in the paper trimmer, and I'm going to just measure, I can't see that, I'll do it this way up. We're going to measure 1¾ inches, because that's the size, that's the top size of the piece that we want to cut off. So I'll measure it at 1¾ and I'll just put a little pencil mark on the inside of there. And then what we'll do is we'll go from the point of the card to the pencil line at 1¾ and we're going to cut that triangle off. Now the trick will be, you never put your blade or your scorer into a point, so we'll start at the top because that's a nice straight edge. So again, just make sure it's at the pencil mark and the point is in the trough, and we will cut down. So now we've got the piece that's missing, and we've got the piece that's going to become the top fan. Top fan, yay! Get badges and all sorts of things these days, don't you, when you're a top fan. So we're just got to make sure that the paper orientation is correct if your designer series paper has one, and this one does with the flowers. So we need to make sure that we're cutting the corner off here down to the point, and this corner is going to be, let me have a look, I measured it carefully, 1 5/8. So 1 5/8 on the paper trimmer is right here. So then we will just be paranoid and measure it several times. 1 5/8, and we'll put a little pencil mark there. And then again, we'll cut from that pencil mark down to the point. Now, I will, full disclosure, when I did mine, it needed to have a little bit of extra trimming for reasons unknown, but let's see where this one gets us. So we'll make sure the paper trim is closed and trim from the top down to that point. So this should fit on the front of the card. And it does more or less, but it's weird that there's a slightly different angle. However, it does not matter, because the fan is going to cover where it might be an 1/8 or a 1/16 off. That's all right. Because like I say, it's going to cover. And then when we pop this piece onto here, it comes all the way nicely down to the point. So hooray for that. And then the other piece we took, it was a whole rectangle originally, and it was 3¼ by 5. So you can see it's still 5 long, and it was 3¼ but then what we did was we just went from corner point to corner point and cut it in half. Actually, let me bring in the other piece just so you can see what I mean. So 3 1/4 by 5, and then we did it point to point. In, of course, because it's cardstock and it's all the same color, it really does not matter which way you cut it, but I was cutting it from top left to bottom right, because if you think that for the plain, when it comes to the designer series paper, you'll follow the same. So, you know, these ones you could just turn it over. Well, you can't do that if your designer series paper has an orientation. So for this card, we're always going to be cutting top left to bottom right. So then you get one triangle left. And then the designer series paper, mine didn't have an orientation for the other piece I used. So this was 3 by 4 3/4. And again, it would have been the whole square, but I cut it from top left to bottom right, and this is what I've got left, because of course the other piece is already on the card, and that layers onto that piece of the blue just nicely. So let me put the paper trimmer away because we are done needing that. What we need to do now is attach all these pieces, and we've got triangles with pointy ends. So I'm going to bring in my silicone mat, so when I'm putting the adhesive on the back all the way down to the point of the triangle, it's not going to get on my work surface. So we will attach this triangle to its counterpart, and then also with the blue. Actually, the other side of this one didn't really have an orientation either. It's just the one that I put on the front seam to, because it had flowers which needed to face up. So it's always just wise to try and pay the best attention you can to the orientation of your designer series paper when you're cutting triangles. So now we have most of the ingredients. Oh, it would help, Alyson, if you stuck the front of the card on. This one doesn't really need the silicone mat because there's a slight point, but it's not angled enough. So we will go ahead and put this on so it looks like it's cooperating. And then we've got the white on the inside, and this follows over because it was cut to the same size. So I also cut a little scalloped circle. These are really old punches. This is a 1 3/8, and I'm also going to cut out a 1 1/8 out of basic white. But whatever your circle is, or you might have dies, I just wanted a little greeting that it would layer on. The stamps that I'm using actually comes from the Happy Birthday kit, like the candles, which has just expired, but it's got this really cute little happy birthday. And again, with promoting the stamping spots, I'm going to stamp it in Night of Navy just onto this circle, and that looks really good. So quite often, a lot of my spots I have gathered from Paper Pumpkin, because each kit comes with a spot that coordinates with, of course, whatever the colors are in the kit. So now we just need to build the card. So the biggest point is going to go on first, and what I did was, for mine, I've seen them where they've been lined up further over, but I'm going to share it between the point in the corner and the edge of the card. It could come over some, but I just thought it would look neater. I felt it was neater just for me to place it where the edge of the card is. So it's up against the edge, and then of course it can't hang further over than the side of the card because it won't fit in the envelope. So we can't do a true ZZ fold, flip it over. We just have to sort of eyeball it. So from here, we can't put any glue really further up than this point towards the top. So I'm just going to put some pretty much there, and it's going to hold it in place. But I am going to bring my silicone mat back in, and then I'm going to put it from this corner to the top, to the corner, and it will fan to the side of the card. So you can see it's from the top corner, it doesn't overhang, and it comes all the way down to the point. And then the next one is to put the fan part on. So I'm just going to line up the points in the corner, and this will come to the edge of the basic white. This one went to the blue, this one I'm putting to the white, but you know, you can rearrange them how you want. So we just got to remember the top sort of 1/2 inch doesn't want to have any sticky on it, or it will stick your card closed. That's never a good thing. And again with the silicone mat, because it really is a pointy point, so we'll stick it in the corner, stick it to the white, and then it will fan as far as it goes. Now I have seen actually where the greeting has been put in this bottom corner, so it sort of hides what's going on here, but because we took care to line it up, and it's a different size card than 5 by, I'm guessing mathematically, I didn't really think to work that out beforehand, the difference between 5 and 7, and then the difference between 4 1/4 and 5 1/2, there might be a different sort of percentage of card. Don't know, I'll have to look at that one. But I'm just going to stick this in the front corner, and then I'm going to pop it on the dimensionals, the greeting. So we'll just put 3 around, so it supports the circle all the way around itself. Quickly peel off those backing papers and pop that into place. And then last but not least, I am going to use these lovely opaque faceted gems, just because they have the right colour. So on this one I put a big one on the corner of the point, and then I just added 2 smaller ones, oops, to the card. So one can go on the navy area and the other can go up on the designer series paper. And that is it, my friends. 2 cards pretty much the same. I mean, it only looks a bit different because it depends where on the designer series paper it has been cut out. So I hope you like it. I hope you're able to make some smaller sized ones if that's what you want to do, rather than the 5 by 7. If you like what you've seen, please consider subscribing, ring the bell so you get notifications when I've posted a video. Thank you in advance if you feel I'm worthy of a thumbs up. The directions and dimensions will be on my blog, and I'll also put little reminders like making sure you have your paper orientated properly. If you have a question or a comment, pop those in the box below. And in the meantime, thanks for watching.